Lord. I can transform Warcraft introduction. The different world of dragons and Warcraft, Ryan, who became a rural lord, discovered that he could transform Warcraft. Started farming in a different world, successfully transformed iron-eating insects able to pull out refined steel, successfully transformed the two-headed magic dog, which has gained fire attribute fighting energy, successfully transformed. Chapter 1. Obtaining Warcraft Transformation Ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding. Become the Lord of Mushroom Town and awaken the skill Warcraft Transformation. Ryan Campbell Occupation. Apprentice Knight Physical Strength. 1.5, Adult Value is 1, Defense. 1.5 Agility. 1.5 Dookie. 10/300, in turn, Skill. Warcraft Transformation. Ryan's heart seemed to stop beating for a moment, looking towards the central panel of his brain. Warcraft Transformation. What is this? I remember becoming a novice knight, consuming fighting energy to sign a contract with Warcraft and become its owner, but I have never heard of any skills related to Warcraft Transformation. Ryan scratched his messy blonde hair, trying to find more information from his memory. The day before yesterday, he died suddenly while working overtime and traveled to a different world similar to the Middle Ages, dominated by knights and Warcraft. The knights in this world are extremely powerful. They not only have amazing combat power, but also use an energy called Dookie to make a contract with Warcraft and drive them. Dookie is said to originate from magic. When awakened as a seed of life, becoming a novice knight can generate it within the body. 3 weeks ago, Ryan awakened the seed of life, with only a faint fighting spirit in his body. He clenched his fist, and a force overflowed from his fingertips, emitting a faint blue light. From the memory of its predecessor, Dookie can only establish a connection with Warcraft and cannot transform it. Can intermediate knights transform Warcraft? Knights who master basic fighting spirit are called junior knights, while those who master intermediate fighting spirit are called intermediate knights. Afterwards, there were high-level knights such as the Golden Knight and the Dragon Knight, but he was not familiar with the specific upgrade system. I only know that the strongest knight today is the Crown Prince of the Kingdom of Maine, a dragon knight who can drive dragons. Ryan's father, Count Morgan Campbell, was a mid-level knight. He led the city of Devon for over 30 years. Transforming Devon City from an unknown small town with a population of only 1,000 to a livable metropolis with a population of over 30,000. No. No. Ryan stood up and paced back and forth in the dilapidated room. The cold rain outside the window continued to drizzle, hitting the window like a woman with deep resentment. Count Morgan only used his fighting spirit to control Warcraft and never modified any Warcraft, Ryan muttered to himself. Ryan remembers this very clearly. Count Morgan controls 2 magic wolves and 3 magic worms. The demon wolf is responsible for defense, and the demon worm is responsible for production. I remember there was a magical bee that could command swarms of ordinary bees to gather honey. Just this one demon worm has increased the honey production in Devon City by hundreds of times compared to similar territories, making the Morgan family the largest honey provider in the north. He once taught his predecessor about the knowledge of magic insects. But there has never been any mention of transforming Warcraft, only mentioning that controlling Warcraft requires a lot of fighting energy, and urging the predecessor to practice breathing techniques to awaken the seed of life. My predecessor also hoped to have as much fighting spirit as Count Morgan. Unfortunately, it seems that Ryan did not inherit Count Morgan's fighting spirit talent. Compared with his brothers and sisters, his talent can be said to be the most rubbish. Ryan has 2 older brothers, 1 older sister, and a half-brother. Big brother and second brother awakened the seed of life before the age of 13, and are now a junior knight with their own fiefdom. Third sister is also exceptionally talented. At the age of 5, she awakened the seed of life, became a junior knight at the age of 7, and became a powerful intermediate knight at the age of 19 this year. With outstanding talent, she married the 3 princes of the Kingdom of Maine a year ago and became a prominent duchess. Even the 5th younger brother, who had just turned 10, became a trainee knight. Take a look at Ryan again. Until 3 weeks ago, the seed of life had not yet awakened. The Kingdom of Maine stipulates that only knights can inherit territory, otherwise the territory automatically belongs to the kingdom. And Ryan's brother and sister are unwilling to inherit the impoverished and backward Mushroom Town. After all, they have to pay taxes, and no one wants a mess that cannot make ends meet. Count Morgan had no choice but to administer a potion to Ryan, his despicable son, and forcibly awaken Ryan's life seed. You should know that once you turn 16, you will not be able to awaken the seed of life, even magic potions cannot. Magic potions can forcibly awaken the seeds of life, but they have significant side effects, often accompanied by serious sequelae, and even death. And the generated fighting spirit is only 1/5 of that of a normal awakened person, and they can only reach a junior knight for life. People often refer to these knights as vase knights. After all, in this world where lords often annex land, without strength, they can only rely on mermaid flesh. Ryan is inherently weak in character, and in this world of worship of power, weakness is original sin. Therefore, in the Morgan family, no one is looking directly at Ryan. Even some servants secretly commented on him. Last week, Ryan, who had just turned 16, was driven out of Devon City and came to the border town of Mushroom. Perhaps it was a sequelae caused by the magic potion, and the predecessor died just a few days after arriving in Mushroom Town. Mushroom Town is located in the northwest corner of the Kingdom of Maine, on the peninsula to the east of the Silver Sea. Mushroom Town was once the iron ore mine of the Morgan family, but 20 years of continuous mining have exhausted the iron ore here. Nowadays, the small town is already in a state of depression, with a large number of free people relocating, leaving only over 500 serfs here to barely maintain the operation of the mines. Dong dong. The hurried knocking on the door interrupted Ryan's thoughts. Master, it's not good. The anxious voice of butler Carl came from outside the door. Ryan opened the door and looked at the butler Carl, who was wearing a black and white butler uniform and looked flustered. Carl is about the same age as Count Morgan, thin as a sharp knife. His hair turned gray, and a pair of plump, caterpillar-like eyebrows furrowed tightly. Carl was one of the deputy managers of the old butler in Devon, always keeping a straight face when dealing with servants. "What's up, Carl?" Ryan's face remained calm, and his panic would only affect his judgment until he understood the problem. "Master, take a look at this." Carl trembled and presented a broken sword. Ryan stared at the broken sword, his gaze fixed on the dense tooth marks on the fracture, as if it had been eaten by insects. "Carl, what's going on?" Ryan frowned slightly. "Report back to the master. Just now the soldiers came to report that all the long swords in the guards' hands have been destroyed, leaving only one broken sword." Carl's brow trembled. Now there is almost no decent weapon in the entire castle. What should we do if there is another Warcraft attack? He spoke in an anxious tone. To the east of Mushroom Town is an endless primitive forest, where monsters often emerge. It can be very dangerous for soldiers without weapons. On their first night in Mushroom Town, they were attacked by a 2-headed demon dog. Fortunately, the guards worked together to drive away the demon dog. "Don't panic, let someone go to the mine to gather some weapons later," Ryan instructed. As an industry of the Morgan family, mines are home to dozens of soldiers stationed there year-round, responsible for supervising serfs. "Yeah, I didn't expect that you were so clever, young master." Carl's face cleared up again. Ryan took the broken sword and carefully examined the tooth marks at the fracture. "What kind of bug can eat away iron tools, and overnight? Is this too unbelievable? In the memory of my predecessor, I had never seen such a thing before. It's an iron-eating bug." Carl handed over a glass bottle and pointed to the bug inside, saying, "Lord Knight just caught this damn thing. It was working hard to bite this iron sword. Look, its teeth are like files. Ryan stared at the thumb-sized black bug in the bottle, resembling an ant, with a pair of sharp teeth that were as sharp as knives, shining with a metallic luster. This is a unique iron-eating demon worm in the Ormei Islands. Despite its small size, it can swallow such a large basket of iron blocks. Carl spread out his arm and gestured the size of the basket. When I was a child, I saw these little demons swallow the anchor with my father on a long voyage, and I suspected its belly was a bottomless pit. Carl looked serious. After a pause, Carl frowned and muttered a few words. Strange, the Ormei Islands are tens of thousands of miles away. How did the iron-eating beetle come here? The Ormei Islands, a tropical island in the boundless sea. Wait, you said the iron-eating worm is a unique demon worm in the Ormei Islands. Ryan looked at Carl. Yes, sir. I'm sure. My father is a captain who stops at the Ormei Islands every 6 months for a week to replenish fresh water and food. Carl's blue eyes flickered and his tone was determined. Ryan touched his chin and thought to himself, did someone specifically target him? At this moment, a crisp reminder came to mind. Task. Use fighting spirit to transform the iron-eating worm, reward 30 points of fighting spirit and 0.5 points of stamina. Chapter 2. Successful transformation of iron-eating insects. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Using Dookie to transform iron-eating insects. Ryan's eyes lit up and his breathing suddenly became rapid. I see. Sir, are you feeling unwell somewhere? Carl suddenly asked curiously. Oh, it's okay, you go to the mine to borrow weapons first. I'll keep this iron-eating bug with me for now, Ryan said with excitement in his heart. Are you okay? I heard that the side effects of the potion will last for 3 months, Carl asked with concern. Ryan waved his hand and gestured for Carl to step back. Carl turned around and went downstairs before taking 2 steps before turning back. By the way, sir, there's one more thing I almost forgot, he said. He hurriedly walked up to Ryan and said, there's not enough food in the territory, we can only hold on for another week. You know, the Count only gave us 2 carts of food. Carl spread his hand and looked helpless. Indeed, Count Morgan only gave Ryan a small amount of supplies this time, which is far from the time when Ryan's second brother separated. At that time, Count Morgan prepared 50 carts of food for his second son. Car after car was filled with preserved meat, cheese, and fresh fruits, and in addition, 5,000 golden dragons were also included as gifts. Looking at himself again, Ryan shook his head. So fast. I remember the prepared supplies could last for at least 3 months. Ryan asked in confusion. Master, have you forgotten? We encountered a Warcraft attack on the way and lost most of our rations. Ryan pondered for a moment, as if something really had happened. They encountered several Warcraft as they passed through a dense forest. Fortunately, the knights' bravery repelled the Warcraft and they unexpectedly lost their supplies. Go buy some supplies nearby, don't you still have 30 golden dragons? Ryan said. To report to the master, it will take 3 days to get to the nearest market town, Qingyu, at least a week to come and go. Carl's narrow face furrowed. This is not like Devon City, there is not even a decent market here, there are only low and dilapidated wooden houses and muddy land. Ryan finally remembered that this was a remote border mining town, far from the market town. In the past, there were often caravans to sell daily necessities during the prosperous times. Now, with the depletion of mining resources, the commercial roads are already covered with thorns and weeds, and no merchants are willing to come here again. We'll talk about this later. Let's go to the mine to borrow weapons first. By the way, it's not safe on the way. Let Cavalier Kevin make a long trip. No, no, no. Carl waved his hand quickly. Lord Knight is responsible for guarding the safety of the master. He must not leave the castle. Who knows if that damn 2-headed demon dog will suddenly jump out. Carl spoke firmly. The middle-aged man, Kevin Lee, who had been drunk all day, appeared in Ryan's mind. Kevin was originally a brave, optimistic, and cheerful intermediate knight who had made great contributions to the Morgan family. But during an operation to protect the Count, his left hand was cut off, causing a severe decline in combat power. Due to his inability to frequently participate in wars, his income has significantly declined, and his wife and daughter have also left him. Since then, his temperament has greatly changed, becoming silent and always getting drunk whenever he has free time. Surprisingly, when Count Morgan recruited Ryan as the captain of the guards, only Kevin volunteered. After all, who is willing to follow a waste lord to a remote place, what good results can there be? Ryan suspected that he was just looking for a place to sulk and drink. However, at the moment, no one can expect anything except for this night. Although he was drunk all day and had one arm, a few days ago when he encountered Warcraft, he alone repelled several demon dogs. Then bring 3 guards. That's settled. Ryan waved his hand, gesturing for Carl to leave. After closing the door and confirming it was locked, Ryan sat at his desk. Ryan lifted the glass bottle cap and followed the instructions on the panel to shoot a wisp of fighting spirit into the body of the iron-eating insect. In the next moment, a prompt sound rang in my ear. Consuming 5 points of fighting energy can transform iron-eating insects. Option 1. Change the habits of iron-eating insects and only eat grass. Option 2. Change the digestive system of iron-eating insects, ingest iron ore, and pull out refined steel. Let the iron-eating bug pull out the refined steel. Steel is an iron-carbon alloy with a carbon content between 0.02% and 2%. Precision steel has high strength and is often used to make top-notch weapons. In this era, the production process is backward and requires skilled master blacksmiths to repeatedly beat pig iron to obtain it. The manpower and material resources required are enormous. A palm-sized piece of refined steel has a value close to that of silver deer. Only the noble and royal families can afford it. Choose 2. Ryan didn't hesitate. Consumed 5 Dookie points, starting to transform iron-eating insects. The next second, a faint red light emanated from the surface of the iron-eating insect, resembling the morning glow, beautiful but not dazzling. After a few breaths, the red light on the surface of the iron-eating insect gradually fades away. Successfully transformed iron-eating worm able to pull out refined steel. Reward 30 points of fighting spirit and 0.5 points of stamina. In the glass bottle, the iron-eating insect swings its 2 long antennae, which look no different from just now. So that's it. Considering that the iron-eating beetle is ultimately a demon beetle, Ryan decided to establish a contract with it first, which would make it easier to control it. The way to sign a contract with the demon insect is also very simple, just drop blood. As the bright red blood dripped onto the iron-eating beetle, an additional message came to Ryan's mind. He could clearly sense the thoughts of the iron-eating beetle, as if the two had already reached a spiritual connection. From this moment on, the iron-eating beetle will belong exclusively to Ryan and only obey his commands. A Warcraft can only sign a contract with a person once in its lifetime, and after signing, it cannot betray its owner. Suddenly, Ryan thought of a question. Is this a wild demon worm? Why hasn't the person who released it signed a contract with it? Or is it true that the person who releases the demon worm is not a knight? Ryan temporarily suppressed his confusion and looked at the central panel of his brain. Ryan Campbell occupation. Apprentice Knight physical strength. 2.0 defense. 1.5 agility. 1.5 Dookie. 35/300, in turn, skill. Warcraft transformation contract Warcraft. Iron-eating worm. The panel has been updated, with stamina increased to 2.0 and the contract Warcraft column appearing. In addition, the value of Dookie has also changed, from 10 points to 35 points. Ryan thought to himself, the upper limit of a probationary knight's fighting spirit is 300. If there are 30 points of fighting spirit in one mission reward, it won't be easy to upgrade to a junior knight. Ryan clenched his fist and shook his arm, feeling his whole body relaxed a lot. Especially the fighting spirit inside the body has significantly increased. He lightly tapped his finger, and a cluster of blue flames jumped at his fingertips. It seems that the improvement brought by this reward is very obvious. Due to the use of magic potions to awaken, the predecessor's fighting spirit was already relatively low, and according to the previous speed, it may not be possible to be promoted to a junior knight within 20 years. No. Not right. I'm afraid in a few years, reading www.uukangshu.net Ryan will die by the sword of other lords. Mushroom Town is backward, but its area is not small, about the size of a county-level city on Earth. It is surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, and on the east side there is a vast primeval forest and several large mountains. Even though iron ore resources are gradually depleting, it is difficult not to be coveted by others under such conditions and location. The sudden appearance of the iron-eating insect may be a signal. It is very likely that someone has already set their sights on this small town. Thinking of this, Ryan clenched his fists tightly. What we can do now is to accumulate a large amount of grain, build high walls, and develop obscene behavior, Ryan muttered to himself. With panels and Warcraft transformation skills, and the blessing of modern thinking, I believe we can create a career in this alien world. Ryan approached the window, cold air mixed with fine rain splashing on his face. Through the rain curtain, dozens of wooden houses surround a stone church on the undulating slopes of the highland. A winding muddy path climbed up the hillside, passing through clusters of lush forests, until the mine was blurred in view. This is Mushroom Town, a completely owned territory and a place where we have our own the final say. Ryan was full of ambition, his eyes flickering. Putting aside his thoughts and returning to his desk, Ryan began to verify the ability of the iron-eating beetle. He pulled the magic wolf ornament on the table to his hand. This is carved from a piece of iron ore, about the size of a football. Ryan took a deep breath, and the surging fighting spirit in his body immediately became manic. Under Ryan's command, the iron-eating beetle slowly crawled out of the glass bottle, its 2 long antennae swaying left and right, seemingly discerning direction. After hesitating for a few seconds, the iron-eating insect moved its 6 legs and quickly ran towards the iron ore. Chapter 3. You are Steel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shit. The iron-eating insect lay on the iron ore and chewed heavily. In just a few breaths, he stuffed a football-sized iron ore into his stomach. Is there really a bottomless hole in its belly? Old Carl's words echoed in his mind. The iron-eating bug licked the mineral residue on the table with an insatiable desire. It twisted its oval-shaped buttocks and suddenly sprayed out black beads the size of mung beans, like a winning slot machine spitting coins. What's even more magical is that these black beads quickly fuse together and aggregate into an iron ball the size of a baseball. No obvious high-temperature phenomenon was found throughout the process, not even steam. I tentatively touched the iron ball and found that it was not hot. I picked up the iron ball until the weight in my hand made Ryan believe everything in front of me. Unbelievable. Ryan weighed the iron ball and estimated its weight to be around 4 pounds. It's almost enough to make a good long sword. The weight of a common knight's sword is about 5 pounds. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Ryan's mind. Can we build a military factory in Mushroom Town to produce high-quality swords? However, Ryan quickly shook his head and denied the idea. Putting aside craftsmen, we won't talk about talent. The iron ore in Mushroom Town is gradually depleting and cannot be sustained for too long. Perhaps in 3 months or even a month, the iron ore will no longer be able to produce ore. According to memory, the closest iron mine to Mushroom Town is Kingston City, thousands of kilometers away. Without trains, it is difficult to rely on manpower to transport iron ore to Mushroom Town. Considering the unique nature of iron-eating insects, it is possible to maximize the amplification of residual ores. Ryan hid the iron-eating bug close to his body. After signing the contract, the iron-eating beetle will obediently stay in its pocket and not run around. He is in a good mood and is going to the living room to have a beer to celebrate. Although there aren't many decent drinks in this era, beer is very authentic. Ryan bought a cart of beer from Devon City out of his own pocket this time. These beers are produced in Bill City, a beer capital known for its high-quality worm beer in the Kingdom of Maine. The city of Bill is adjacent to the city of Devon, and it is said that the Lord, Count Henry, has a demon worm that can brew beer. Count Henry stipulated that the ingredients for beer could only be water, barley, hops, and yeast, and no other substances were allowed to be mixed in. After the preliminary brewing of beer is completed, the devil insect will use magic to treat the liquor, making the foam of beer more dense and the liquor more mellow. This is not comparable to beer blended with technological powder on Earth. Opening the door, Ryan saw a knight standing on the railing with his back to him. "Lord." Kevin turned around, his empty left sleeve swaying back and forth, and he saluted stiffly. It turned out to be his knight, Kevin Lee. He doesn't have a strong smell of alcohol, it seems like he hasn't been drinking today. Kevin is in his early 30s and is very tall. Ryan needs to slightly lift his chin to see the three-dimensional and profound face clearly. He has sunken eyes, a face full of stubble, and a slightly indifferent expression. Ryan noticed his armor. That is a brown hard leather armor, with a dark gray lock armor cover. The style is ordinary, but there are traces of time remaining. "I think it's better to still stand at your doorstep, Lord." Kevin lit up his wooden stick and a bitter smile squeezed out of his face. "I got drunk last night and woke up to find that half of the knight's sword on my waist had been gnawed by iron-eating insects." This made him very ashamed. Ryan's gaze swept over the broken sword that was hanging on his waist, shining with a cold light, indicating that it was a superior weapon. The destructive power of the iron-eating beetle is so powerful that even this refined steel sword can easily gnaw on it. If it slips into the mine, the iron ore in Mushroom Town is estimated to be closed. At that time, Mushroom Town will lose its pillar industry, and my lord can only eat wild fruits every day. Ryan only has 30 golden dragons left on him, and even the wealthier vendors have more than that money. In my previous life, I realized that I was poor. How could I still be so poor in a different world? As Ryan sighed in his heart, a crisp reminder came to his mind. Task. Craft a brand new long sword for Captain Kevin, reward clues of new iron ore, and increase agility by 0.5 points, a clue to the new iron ore. Ryan stared at the panel in his mind for a second before a flash of joy flashed in his eyes. "Let's go to the blacksmith's shop." Ryan patted Kevin's shoulder and quickly walked downstairs. Blacksmith's shop. Kevin looked at the broken sword at his waist and then tilted his head, looking puzzled. "Master, the horses are ready." Carl led a gray mare, the rain hasn't stopped yet. "Why don't we go after lunch?" "No need, Carl." Ryan skillfully jumped onto the horse's back. "I've been here for 3 days now. It's time to patrol my territory." Ryan patted the gray little mare under him and walked forward with a pincer. "Listen, old Carl, keep an eye on my beer." Kevin roughly grabbed the reins and kicked the horse's belly. "Let's go, old buddy." Looking at the group of people rushing away, old Carl shrugged and murmured to himself, "Young master is still so stubborn." "Hey, what are you waiting for? Don't think the Baron can be lazy without him here." Carl pointed to a tall and thin servant and shouted loudly. "Go, prepare hot water. It's likely to get soaked when the Lord comes back. This damn weather will never end next." The drizzle is continuous, and the air is filled with the fragrance of grass and toasted bread. From a distance, Ryan could hear the clanking sound coming from the blacksmith's shop. "Lord, Here you are, the accompanying guards shouted loudly. Wow! The pedestrians on the road knelt down one after another, their heads hanging down in panic. Damn it, kneel down quickly, don't you want to die? A passerby hurriedly pressed the head of a child beside him. Ryan looked down at these ragged collar workers with a serious expression. For the first time as a lord, he didn't know what expression to use and could only subconsciously tighten his face. Dear Lord, what can I do for you? Smith, the old blacksmith, crouched on the ground, his body could not help shaking. It is better to be respectful when not feeling the refreshing temperament of the Lord, especially when the lords like to watch the trembling lords. This is the experience summarized by their lords. Get up. Ryan rolled over and dismounted. I need you to help me strike a sword. Ryan looked around the blacksmith's shop, the air filled with a pungent smell of smoke, and a piece of iron lump gradually turned red in the hot forge. Two young men with bare upper bodies and apprentices huddled behind Smith, occasionally glancing at Ryan. Kevin frowned slightly. Lord, do you want to strike a sword? Does he think he can strike a good iron sword with just a piece of iron ore? It's really a joke. The sword he had before cost him a full 300 silver deer and took him over 2 months to complete. Excluding the cost of blacksmiths, the most expensive one is the precision steel used to craft the sword. Mushroom Town is located in a remote area, and it takes at least 3 months to expect old Smith to use pig iron to refine refined steel. This young Master Ryan may not be a fool, he truly deserves to be a vase knight. Kevin sneered in his heart. If it weren't for the old count giving him a large sum of money in advance, he wouldn't have come to this place where birds don't poop. UU reading www.uukangshu.net. Take a sword. Smith's face turned pale. Although he used to be a skilled swordsmith in the military, there was no refined steel to teach him how to forge swords. Lord, if you want to strike a sword with iron ore, it will take at least 3 months. Smith pointed to the iron ore piled up in the corner, frowning. Seemingly afraid that the Lord wouldn't understand, Smith picked up a piece of iron ore and said, it will take about 3 months to refine this thing into refined steel, including forging, quenching, cutting, polishing, and so on. Smith pursed his lips and shook his head repeatedly. I'll take it tomorrow morning. Ryan said. What? Smith opened his mouth wide. Impossible. Absolutely, impossible. Ryan took out 2 golden dragons from his arms and threw them onto the greasy table. Smith's eyes almost popped out. Golden dragon. Oh my goodness, the 7 gods are up there. He can't earn a golden dragon even after working hard for a year. There are actually 2 now. Lord, this is really killing me. Smith's eyes have turned into 2 golden dragons, shining with a brilliant golden light. Unless, Lord, you have ready-made refined steel, and you also have 3 strong soldiers as helpers, I can give it a try. Jing-gang, then there's no such thing as having it. Even if you have been a blacksmith for over 30 years, you cannot easily forge iron ore into fine steel. It requires enough experience and luck, and it takes a lot of time to obtain a good treasure. Dong! Ryan placed the iron ball on the long table filled with clutter. Take a look at this. This is... Smith's eyes suddenly lit up, and the striker snatched the steel ball. After a brief silence, he gasped for breath and said, Ergang. Chapter 4. Blacksmith. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? Steel. Kevin Knight snatched the steel ball. Is this steel? Legend has it that steel is the finest steel of the Dwarf Kingdom. A palm-sized steel has a value close to a golden dragon. Since the downfall of the Dwarf Kingdom 100 years ago, steel has rarely appeared, Kevin muttered, caressing the steel ball like a gemstone. This is the first time he has had such close contact with steel. For Kevin, besides honey wine, he is most interested in various knight equipment. From animal skin armor, refined steel helmets, lock armor to knight swords, and so on. Having a set of Ural steel swords has always been Kevin's dream for many years. Ural steel is one of the best materials for crafting superior weapons, and I remember Marquis List's personal sword was made of Ural steel. Kevin rubbed the steel ball, his eyes flickering. You see, these patterns are the unique water ripples of our steel. It is said that this is a technology unique to the dwarves and also the anti-counterfeiting symbol of our steel. Smith pointed to the dark patterns on the steel ball and said, "Water ripple." Ryan took the steel ball and carefully examined it towards the bright spot, only then did he notice the water ripples on the surface of the steel ball. The water ripple pattern is very light and not very obvious, similar to the pattern on the Damascus steel knife from a previous life. Perhaps I didn't pay attention to the dim light in the room just now. That's right, it's her steel. Kevin stared at the steel ball intently, unwilling to move. Lord Morgan has a steel dagger with this pattern. Look, this is simply a work of art. I didn't expect the Count to give such a precious thing to Baron Ryan. Kevin glanced at Baron Ryan, who was handsome, with a hint of respect in his eyes. Ryan gave a faint smile. You are steel. This is not some kind of Ural steel. This is a cake, pulled by iron-eating insects. It seems that the value of iron-eating insects is much greater than I imagined. When we have a new iron ore, we must open a high-end weapon workshop. By the way, dwarf. If we could recruit some dwarf craftsmen, that would be even better. Those guys are known for their exquisite craftsmanship. The dwarves were once an active race on the glorious continent, skilled in smelting iron and forging weapons. 500 years ago, the country was destroyed by the Kingdom of Maine, and most of the people died in war. The remaining part of the dwarves fled to the deep mountains to live in seclusion. However, there are still a small number of dwarves active in the royal capital, specializing in making top-notch equipment for the nobility and the royal family. This piece of Ural steel reminds me of many past events. Smith rubbed the steel ball with eager eyes. Smith, the only blacksmith in Mushroom Town. He once studied under a dwarf blacksmith, with excellent craftsmanship. However, he never told anyone about his master. I heard Kevin say your craftsmanship is top-notch and you once forged a sword for my father. Ryan spoke. On the way here, Ryan heard Kevin talk about Smith. They can be considered old acquaintances. 10 years ago, Kevin stayed in Mushroom Town for a period of time, during which he often escorted Count Morgan between Devon City and Mushroom Town. Count Morgan once had Smith forge a cross sword. Smith bowed and said, "That's the most commendable honor of my life, Lord. You guys come over." Ryan summoned 3 guards, with a wicked smile on his lips. The conditions you want are fine steel, and everyone is here. Smith instinctively twitched at the corner of his mouth. Until then, he realized that he had already fallen into the Lord's trap. Okay, Smith weighed 2 golden dragons and forced a bitter smile at the corner of his mouth. Since that's the case, I can only spare this old bone. Ironhead, go pull a cart of good coke, hammer, and stir up the bellows. It's all invigorating for me. If I do my job well, I'll reward each person with 10 silver coins, Smith roared. The workers in the blacksmith's shop were all excited and blushing. 10 silver coins, that's their half-year income. Remember, this is all bestowed upon us by the Lord. Thank you, Lord, for your generosity and kindness. Ryan looked at the group of energetic craftsmen and nodded in satisfaction. At present, it is necessary to complete the panel task as soon as possible and obtain news about the new iron ore. Compared to the new iron ore, 2 golden dragons are nothing. By the way, Cavalier Kevin, do you have anything to say about your new weapon? Ryan glanced at the stunned Cavalier. New weapon. Mine. Kevin stood still. Since the morning, he has been feeling unhappy about the loss of his beloved sword, which is a good sword worth hundreds of silver deer. Unexpectedly, the Lord has now gifted a wooer steel sword that reflects his dreams. Oh my goodness. Kevin was at a loss for a moment, feeling his legs weak and kneeling in front of Ryan with a thud. Thank you, Lord. Kevin pressed his chest, as if something was flickering in his eyes. As the rustling of horses echoed through the courtyard, Ryan and his team returned to the castle. The orange light shot out from the narrow window, making the tired Ryan feel a long-lost sense of familiarity. It is said to be a castle, but in reality it is a larger stone house. This castle is built of brown granite, with 2 floors and a total of more than 10 rooms. When Count Morgan visited Mushroom Town, he temporarily stayed here. At that time, Count Morgan's life was simple and full of fighting spirit, and he did not enjoy it as much as he does now. Master, you're back now, old Carl pulled the grey mare on the muddy ground. We've prepared hot water and steaming grilled meat for you. Of course, there's also your favorite monster beer. Thank you very much, Butler Carl. Ryan thanked from the bottom of his heart. In such a damp and cold weather, taking a hot bath and eating a bite of grilled meat is not much moisturizing. Ryan took off his wet coat, shook off his rain-soaked boots, and walked barefoot into the castle. The servants were already accustomed to Ryan's actions. When he was in Devon City, young Master Ryan was so unkempt. Ryan is just maintaining his character. The Kingdom of Maine has a church, and if one behaves too abnormally, it may attract the attention of the church. If it doesn't work out properly, it will be put on fire and executed. Although Mushroom Town is located in a remote area, it is still better to be cautious. In the hot bucket, Ryan slowly closed his eyes and reminisced about what he had seen and heard today. The dilapidated houses that could be seen everywhere, and the skinny serfs who would collapse at a blow, were the impressions that Mushroom Town gave him. Downtown, poor, backward, the entire town is like a cemetery, lifeless. Even in relatively affluent areas of the town, there are no decent shops to be seen. Not to mention any handicrafts. Mushroom Town has always relied on mines and has never cultivated farmland. At present, with the depletion of iron ore, we have to consider land reclamation. This not only requires a large amount of labor, but also requires a strong night team to eliminate Warcraft. Those magic dogs hiding in the forest are not for fun. But where did he get so much labor? Ryan submerged his head in the water, trying to forget these unpleasant things. Sir, can I come in? Suddenly, a coquettish female voice came from outside the door. Chapter 5. Servants. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ryan's heart tightened as he was about to inquire when he saw the bathroom door creaking open. Master. The girl has delicate facial features and wears cool clothes. Her cheeks were flushed with the flickering candlelight, and the indoor mist could not conceal her proud figure. Butler Carl asked me to come and take care of you for a bath. The girl's voice was soft and sticky, like a cat paw scratching Ryan's chest. Melissa. Ryan recognizes her. My predecessor had a hobby of having beautiful maids take care of me while taking a shower. Especially this Melissa, he loved it the most and insisted on taking her to Mushroom Town this time. Ryan lifted his head and watched Melissa start twisting her waist and dancing in front of her. However, unlike what Ryan had hoped for, Melissa was just dancing, right? Only dance. Ryan walked out of the bathroom with a dark face, followed by the maid Melissa. The other servants did not show a surprised expression upon seeing it. When in Devon, the entire castle knew that young Master Ryan often watched beautiful maids dance while taking a bath. In autumn, there is a large temperature difference between morning and evening in Mushroom Town, and the temperature even drops to single digits after dark. However, young Master Ryan only wore a thin silk nightgown. Master, you'd better wear more, be careful not to catch a cold. Butler Carl held a neatly stacked velvet robe in his hand. After gaining fighting spirit, the knight's physical fitness greatly improves, but he may also occasionally feel typhoid fever. This little hoof has made me feel hot and dry all over. Ryan glanced at Melissa as she twisted her buttocks and left, muttering to himself. But Ryan can't touch women yet. Because my predecessor never touched women, just appreciated them. In order to maintain his character, Ryan had to temporarily hold back. Ryan nodded slightly and put on a soft and smooth velvet nightgown. Today's dinner is grilled 7-gilled eel, smoked chicken, pickled cucumber, and worm beer, all of which are your favorites. By the way, do you have any good suggestions for the food shortage issue? Ryan stuffed a roasted 7-gilled eel into his mouth. Crispy fish skin, tight and juicy fish meat, mixed with sauce, flicker and move on the taste buds, protruding left and right, like a brave and skilled knight. The rich and mellow beer, with a killing and refreshing taste, is like a raging whirlwind spinning and dancing on the tip of the tongue. Good meat. Good wine. Ryan moved his hands quickly and immersed himself in the vortex of delicious food. Old Carl was quick-sighted and quick to deal with the pottery cup, and always let the dense snow-white foam hang on the pottery cup. I plan to send someone overnight to Bill City, which is closest to Mushroom Town and can be reached by carriage in 3 days, Old Carl said softly. Additionally, I need the master to order the guards to hunt some small game in the forest instead of bread. Ryan waved his hand, indicating that Old Carl didn't need to refill his glass. Although beer is good, one should not drink too much. Maintaining a clear mind at all times is Ryan's principle. Eating less bread for a few days is not a big problem. Ryan glanced at the brick-like bread on the plate and couldn't help but furrow his brow. The bread in this world has a rough taste, but it only tastes better when it is first baked. He misses some of the technological bread on Earth, which tastes sweet and smooth. Let's do it according to your ideas. Ryan stuffed a smooth and tender piece of chicken into his mouth, and his eyes suddenly lit up, unexpectedly delicious. I said, Melissa, did Mr. Ryan still not touch you? Cooking Lady Susan leaned back against the cabinet and looked at Melissa, her sharp eyes seeming to pierce through her. Melissa pouted, lowered her head, revealing her snow-white, slender neck. I do. I don't want to spend my whole life in this greasy kitchen, Melissa complained. Are you saying it's a master? Susan blinked at Melissa, her mouth slightly curved. A blush climbed onto Melissa's cheek, higher than her linen collar. How do I know? Melissa sat on the wooden stool in a fit of anger. As a maid, Melissa has a beautiful appearance that does not match her status. Since entering the Morgan family, he has received Ryan's attention. She has always. Chapter 6. Two-Headed Magic Dog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang bang bang. Lord, a two-headed demon dog has attacked the castle. Please don't come out. It's too dangerous. The anxious voice of Captain Kevin came from outside the door. Double-headed magic dog. Ryan's heart trembled. 3 days ago, when I first arrived in Mushroom Town, I was attacked by a two-headed demon dog. I didn't expect it to come again today. It seems that this demon dog has set its sights on this place. Ryan was fortunate to have borrowed several long swords and machetes from the mine this morning, otherwise he would be very passive now. The claws of a two-headed magic dog are not for fun, they can easily break through lock armor. But the most powerful thing is still that pair of fangs. Even an awakened demon dog can easily bite through the steel knife, and if bitten, it is extremely dangerous. The physical fitness of knights is indeed much better than that of ordinary people, but they are not invincible. Death from excessive bleeding and wound infections is common. In the blink of an eye, Ryan decided to stay indoors and wait for the guards to control the Warcraft before going out. A man with tools is not a fool. Oh no, it slipped into the living room. Stop it quickly and don't let it run upstairs. The Lord is still upstairs. The soldier's roar came from downstairs. Then came a series of panicked footsteps and clanging noises, as if an entire kitchen had fallen into an elevator shaft, with all kinds of porcelain and metal colliding haphazardly. During this period, there were also the low growls of beasts and the cries of guards. It took an unknown amount of time before the commotion gradually subsided. "It's okay, Lord. The guards have already taken control of this demon dog." Kevin's calm and soft voice came from outside the door. Ryan pushed open the door and strode to the railing, overlooking the living room. The messy living room was a mess, with chairs swaying and pottery shards scattered all over the floor. A guard was holding his arm soaked in blood, looking quite injured. In the center of the living room, 3 guards holding iron weapons were guarding a gray 2-headed magic dog the size of a small lamb, which was currently trapped by a large brown-black net and unable to move. "It's okay, sir. The magic dog looks like it's not yet of age, and these trapped animal nets are enough to handle it." Butler Carl waved at Ryan. Trapped beast net, a rope net made of cowhide bands, can be used to briefly bind Warcraft and is a common hunting tool in mines. "How to deal with this Warcraft, please let the master decide," Carl said. "Captain Kevin, what do you think?" Ryan looked at Captain Kevin, not very familiar with this aspect, only knowing that Warcraft was covered in treasures. Fur can be used to make high-quality hard leather armor, and fangs can be used to make weapons. Kevin Knight played with the long knife in his hand, circling around the demon dog with its fangs and low warning, up and down in large numbers. "Low-level magic dog, it looks like it has just reached adulthood. Let's kill it." Kevin pointed his knife at the dog's ear. "Lord, look, its ears are still gray and haven't awakened." Ryan nodded slightly. "After awakening, the ears of the demon dog will turn bright red, very eye-catching." Kevin put away his long sword and playfully inserted it back into the scabbard. "It seems that his teeth have passed the awakening period and it is impossible to enter the product again." Seemingly noticing Ryan's confusion, Kevin explained, "At 6 months old, the magic dog has a small chance of awakening its attribute fighting spirit and becoming a junior Warcraft. But if it misses, it is destined to be an ordinary Warcraft." "Has this Warcraft awakened?" Ryan asked curiously. "It's impossible to wake up. Judging from his teeth, it's already 8 months old and has just reached adulthood. It's destined to be an ordinary demon dog in this lifetime," Kevin said confidently. "My suggestion is to kill it. Although it's a Warcraft, it has no value in establishing a contract. Instead, it's better to kill and eat meat to increase morale. Warcraft meat is a great supplement. Knights can increase their fighting spirit after eating it, while ordinary people can strengthen their muscles and bones and significantly improve their physical fitness." "Sir, I think what Captain Kevin said makes sense," Carl leaned in. "As far as I know, the price of 1 pound of Warcraft meat is about 20 silver deer, which is equivalent to the annual meal expenses of an ordinary family of 3. There are also the teeth of the magic dog, which have extremely high hardness, comparable to high-quality steel, making it perfect for making daggers," Carl continued. Ryan seemed lost in thought. "Indeed, this ordinary Warcraft consumes an astonishing amount of food every day, and currently there is no surplus food in the castle. Let's wait for a while and receive another good-looking Warcraft." "Carl, you are discerning. If it were a junior Warcraft, this pair of fangs alone would be worth 900 silver deer," Kevin said with a smile. 900 silver deer. A guard opened their eyes wide and snapped their fingers, "So many. Enough for my mother to sleep in Devon City for a year." "Cut, can you hold on? In just 1 year, you might die on a woman's belly in less than a week," joked the red-haired guard beside you. Everyone laughed heartily. Carl scanned around with a stern face, gesturing for them to shut up. It is extremely impolite and unforgivable to casually make vulgar jokes in front of the Lord. But Carl still restrained himself in front of the Lord. Ryan also chuckled and looked at Kevin. "Oh, so expensive. The fangs of novice Warcraft come with a fighting spirit attribute, which is a rare and good thing. It's normal for them to be more expensive." Kevin shrugged, looking regretful. Indeed, luck is not very good. No, I'm lucky. If the demon dog in front of us is a junior Warcraft, it cannot be controlled by just Nujinwang. Even Cavalier Kevin may not be able to suppress it. Alright, Yu reading www.uukangshu.net. Sorry. Ryan drew his sword and prepared to personally defeat the two-headed demon dog. Looking at the struggling two-headed dog in the cow's tendon net, Ryan's gaze suddenly froze. At this moment, a prompt sound suddenly came to my mind. Side quests. Transform low-level two-headed magic dogs, reward 10 fighting spirit points and 0.5 defense points. Wait. Regional tasks. Dang. The long sword in his hand fell on the stone brick, and sparks burst out. Master. You are. Carl's gaze shifted back and forth on the sword and Ryan. Missed. Ryan pursed his lips. Since that's the case, I'll just take this guy. A few guards suppressed their smiles and secretly exchanged their eyes, secretly laughing in their hearts. Truly worthy of the Vase Knight, this can all be missed. Speaking, Ryan drew a dagger and wiped it on his palm. Blood gurgled out and dripped onto the head of the two-headed demon dog, slowly sliding down. The two-headed demon dog, who narrowly escaped death, seemed to understand Ryan's intentions and vigorously licked the blood on his cheeks. In an instant, Ryan felt the joy, anger, sorrow, and joy of the demon dog. Seeing the demon dog led by the Lord to the second floor, several guards lazily turned around and left. Cut, waste monsters paired with waste lords, it's a great match, the red-haired guard muttered softly. Sam, don't say anything so disrespectful. Even the knight cannot turn a blind eye to such disrespectful words. Cut it. If it weren't for my debt, I wouldn't have come here. I don't even have a brothel, Sam disagreed. Okay. Hold on. In the bedroom, orange light shines like beans. The two-headed magic dog stuck out its tongue and obediently stared at Ryan. Start renovating. Chapter 7. Transforming the Magic Dog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Consuming 20 points of fighting energy can transform a two-headed magic dog. Option 1. Change the attributes of the two-headed magic dog, and the magic dog will gain defensive earth attribute Dookie. Option 2. Change the attributes of the two-headed magic dog, and the magic dog will gain healing wood attribute fighting energy. Option 3. Change the attributes of the two-headed magic dog, and the magic dog will gain attack type fire attribute fighting energy. 3 options, different attributes of fighting spirit. After careful consideration, Ryan chose option 3. I choose 3. In an instant, a dazzling red light enveloped the two-headed demon dog. The red light sometimes expands and sometimes contracts, as if breathing. About 5 minutes later, a lamb-sized magic dog appeared in front of Ryan. The demon dog only has one head left, and its whole body is snow-white, except for 2 bright red ears that stand tall and prominent. The transformation of the two-headed magic dog has been completed, and the magic dog has awakened its fire attribute fighting spirit. The side quest has been completed, with a reward of 10 points for fighting spirit and 0.5 points for defense. Ryan looked at the property panel. Ryan Campbell occupation. Apprentice Knight physical strength. 2.0 defense. 2.0 agility. 1.5 Dookie. 25/300, in turn, skill. Warcraft transformation contract. Warcraft. Iron-eating worms, magic dogs. The defense value has reached 2.0, Ryan muttered to himself, but the physical sensation is not obvious. Folding the panel, Ryan's gaze fell back on the magic dog. You're so white, I'll call you by Ling from now on. Ryan decided to name the magic dog after Arya's pet wolf. Woo woof. The demon dog let out an excited cry. Ryan has a spiritual connection with Contract Warcraft and can truly feel its joy. He rubbed Bai Ling's head, and the satin-like fur was smooth and soft, making it irresistible to grab a few more. Not bad, you can relieve stress by masturbating your dog in the future. Ryan was complaining in his heart. Red ears, fire attribute fighting spirit. As Kevin said, the demon dog's ears will turn red after awakening. Wait. Why does a knight's fighting spirit lack attributes? After some thought, Ryan did not find the corresponding knowledge in his memory. It seems that we can only seek advice from Captain Kevin. At present, only he understands the fighting spirit in the entire Mushroom Town. The reorganized living room appears empty, with only a large chair arranged. Ryan sat in the big chair, Bai Ling lying at his feet, quiet like a little cat. So the demon dog has awakened. Kevin looked at the demon dog in front of him with suspicion. The snow-white fur and bright red ears clearly have completed awakening. Strange, even though I have grown into an adult with permanent teeth, why can I still wake up? Kevin scratched his slightly greasy brown hair, and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes squeezed together. After 6 months of birth, Warcraft such as Magic Dog and Magic Wolf will replace 20 baby teeth at once and grow 16 brand new permanent teeth, which is a sign of adulthood. Once Warcraft reaches adulthood, it will no longer awaken, which is a pattern that has been summarized by predecessors for hundreds of years. Why did it expire today? Kevin felt his face burning, as if he had been slapped heavily by someone. Congratulations to the master, you have won the Junior Warcraft. It's a great treasure, Carl said with a red face. I heard that beginner Warcraft have a strong ferocity and can catch wild creatures very well. The nobles keep a group of Warcraft cubs in captivity, waiting for Warcraft to awaken. Most of them work in vain, and there are few successful awakened Warcraft. Carl spoke excitedly. You said it, Lord Knight. Carl looked at Kevin with a smile in his eyes. Kevin avoided the slightly provocative gaze of the other person and nodded heavily with a pursed mouth. Perhaps today's demon dog is just an exception, Kevin comforted himself. But no matter how good things happen in their family. Back then, Count Morgan luckily encountered an injured Junior Warcraft. The white-eyed wolf, and directly forced the wolf to become a contract Warcraft, which led to his rise all the way. Now, decades have passed, and his son is fortunate enough to sign a contract with a low-level Warcraft awaiting awakening. How come I didn't have this good thing myself? Kevin secretly slandered. Generally speaking, the signing of a contract depends on the knight's strength, and the stronger the strength, the higher the level of the Warcraft signed. In situations like Baron Ryan, one can only sign contracts with some awakened Warcraft. Captain Kevin, you haven't answered my question yet, Ryan reminded with a smile. Sorry, Lord. Kevin cleared his throat. The fire attribute Dookie you mentioned is one thing. Dookie is divided into 7 attributes. Wind, thunder, water, fire, earth, wood, gold, etc. When Warcraft awakens, it will randomly obtain one of these attributes. There are actually 7 types. Which attribute is better? The wood attribute is the best, the fire attribute is the worst. Kevin spoke confidently. Oh. Why? The fire attribute clearly sounds stronger. The wood attribute belongs to the healing type and can heal injuries for knights, making it more practical. As you know, knights are still the main force in today's wars, and it is difficult to control Warcraft with higher levels. When the fire attribute Warcraft first awakens, its power is very weak and it is almost impossible to release the fireball spell. Especially for poorly qualified Warcraft, they can only release some thick smoke. Ryan silently noted it down and continued to ask, why doesn't the knight have a tribute fighting spirit? Kevin was stunned for a few seconds, his face flashing with surprise. Attribute Dookie. Are you joking? That's an ability that only bronze knights can handle more than advanced knights. There are only 3 people in the entire High Collar County. Is that what you, the Vase Knight, should know? It's a foolish question. Kevin felt a little tired of this pretentious guy. He impatiently perfunctorily said, "Attribute fighting spirit. I've never heard of this before. Maybe you should ask the wizard who transformed knights thousands of years ago." UU reading www.uukangshu.net. Pay attention to your words, Lord Knight. Carl said sharply. In the eyes of Butler Carl, it is disrespectful for his subordinates to speak to the Lord like this. Ryan's eyes also flickered with a hint of displeasure. Kevin shrugged his shoulders, disapproving. He looked at Bai Ling and said with some disdain, "To be frank, although this little white dog has awakened, I feel like he can only breathe a little smoke. If he wants to spit out flames and use the fireball technique, he probably will have to keep it for another year and a half." "Oh really?" Ryan's mouth curved upwards. Ryan is well versed in the fighting spirit within Bai Ling's body, so much so that he cannot say that he can still use the fireball technique at least 3 times. Perhaps this is the uniqueness of the Golden Finger. Recalling the recent encounters with Cavalier Kevin, Ryan clearly felt that this guy had been belittling him in every move, despite his efforts to conceal it. Especially after specially crafting the knight's sword for him today, Kevin became even more ethereal. Perhaps it was possible before, but now it is absolutely not allowed for this contempt to continue to ferment. Otherwise, there is no talk of developing Mushroom Town. Ryan glanced at Bai Ling beside him and felt it was time for these guys to know who the master was. "Captain Kevin." Ryan spoke calmly, "Why don't you compete with my contracted Warcraft? I also want to see the power of fire attribute fighting spirit." Bullying a little dog is not something to show off, Kevin sneered at the corner of his mouth as he turned on the wine jug and took a sip of honey wine. "What, are you afraid?" "Joke, no matter how I say it, I used to be an intermediate knight." "Then prove it to me." Speaking, Ryan led Bai Ling towards the schoolyard outside the door. Chapter 8. Fireball Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kevin shrugged his shoulders. After a busy day, he really didn't want to fight a dog. But with all that said, he didn't have a choice either. For the sake of Count Morgan's money, let's play with Ryan. Kevin thought so, and a pale bitter smile squeezed out of his face. "Carl, shout everyone up." Ryan's tone was unquestionable. "Since we want to establish our authority, we must have everyone present." "Okay, sir, I'll go and pick up all these lazy ghosts." Soon, everyone in the castle arrived. They walked slowly one by one, with a tired expression and a look of strangers not entering. The guards yawned, their faces turned black, and their hot temper was filled with curses and expressions of dissatisfaction. Ryan's sharp gaze swept over the crowd, thinking to himself. Similar to what I felt, the servants in the castle began to gradually lose control. Most of them didn't really want to come to Mushroom Town. Some people are for money, while others have no choice. The harsh environment in Mushroom Town has exceeded their imagination, and some people can no longer bear it. What they are afraid of is just the remaining power of Count Morgan. No one really values the Vase Knight. At this moment, the sky is gradually brightening. The morning glow pierced through the clouds, passed through the treetops, and landed on the school field, smearing it on everyone's face. Kevin drew his long sword and stared at the demon dog, with a flash of killing intent in his eyes. Seemingly sensing the other party's malice, Bai Ling bared her fangs and let out a low growl in her throat. Under the morning glow, the long sword reflected the glow, like a burning red soldering iron. "Start." With Ryan's command, the white spirit shone like a red light towards Kevin. So fast. Kevin was startled in his heart. After awakening, the entire body of the demon dog underwent a qualitative change, with a significant increase in both speed and strength. Especially their claws will become sharper and more resilient. Ordinary armor is difficult to withstand a single blow. However, Kevin is not panicked. This is the calmness and composure that comes with having experienced countless battles. He swayed tightly and skillfully avoided Bai Ling's attack. Not only that, but he also accurately cut Bai Ling's front hooves in the gap between his turns. The whole set of movements flows smoothly, agile like a cunning rabbit. Bai Ling felt pain and let out a growl as she stumbled and jumped away, her crimson blood instantly staining her front hooves. "TSK TSK TSK, poor dog." Kevin licked the Warcraft blood on his blade. Awakening Warcraft blood is a good thing, it can't be wasted. Beautiful. You truly deserve to be the Grand Knight. A red-haired guard among the guards applauded. Carl glanced at the red-haired guard with pointed monkey cheeks. He recognizes this guy and is usually called Sam by everyone. He only joined the guard temporarily when he left Mushroom Town. Sam was originally a lazy bounty hunter, and it is said that he joined the escort team to avoid debt. He is a guy who spends all day fooling around and always talks about women. Carl hates this guy who doesn't have a proper form the most. If it weren't for the butler's authority to interfere with the guards, he would have sent him away long ago. Ryan's face was calm as he looked at the trembling white spirit, which seemed to be frightened by Kevin's strength. Just after awakening, it made Bai Ling feel a bit reluctant to fight against an intermediate knight. However, Ryan believes that Bai Ling will win. Ryan closed his eyes and communicated with Bai Ling in his heart. It seems that Bai Ling's eyes gradually brightened up as she was encouraged by her master. It shook its satin-like hair, revealing its fangs shimmering with metallic coldness, and posed an attacking posture towards Kevin. "Did you get up so quickly?" Kevin stared at the demon dog's fawn with fear. After the awakening of the demon dog, its fangs will undergo a qualitative change. In addition to a significant increase in hardness, it will also attach fighting spirit. They often activate attribute fighting energy at the moment of biting prey. That feeling, just thinking about it makes me sweat profusely. Kevin once witnessed a scene where a companion was bitten to death by a junior Warcraft. An arc as thick as a thumb jumped on the body torn apart by the monster's power. The burnt smell still seemed to permeate between the mouth and nose. Bai Ling moved and quickly circled around Kevin, seemingly searching for a suitable opportunity. Suddenly, clusters of thick black smoke erupted from its mouth, and the entire venue was covered in ink like thick smoke. Kevin instinctively covered his mouth and nose, avoiding the thick smoke. But there was too much smoke and I couldn't find the direction for a moment. Clever dog shreds. Surprisingly, he gave me this one. Suddenly, a black shadow emerged from the smoke, and in an instant, the demon dog's fangs almost pressed against its cheek. Damn it! Kevin quickly retreated and dodged, only to suddenly find a fireball spurting out from the mouth of the magic dog. What? Fireball technique. The fireball technique of the magic dog has amazing killing power, and it's not just for fun. Unexpectedly, a junior magic dog that had just awakened for less than an hour could use fireball magic. It seems that I really underestimated this beast. The fireball, carrying scorching waves of air, rushed towards Kevin. Kevin quickly retreated and suddenly lightly tapped his toes, instantly moving his body horizontally. Avoided the attacks of fireballs and magic dogs. This action is simply unbelievable, as if there is no inertia in this world. Kevin lifted the corners of his mouth lightly and muttered to himself, "It's just a little trick from the Vase Knight." When the demon dog released smoke, he guessed that it was Baron Ryan's tactic. First, use smoke to block the line of sight, and then take the opportunity to release the fireball spell. I thought this would defeat me. Naive. Sting. A sound of clothes cracking suddenly came from behind. The scorching pain instantly penetrated the entire arm. How could it be? This speed is too fast. Kevin exclaimed in surprise. I found a torn wound on my right shoulder. The claw hole pierced through the lock armor and hard leather armor, tearing through the inner garment. Damn it, why is the speed of the demon dog so fast? No, this magic dog has just hidden its strength. Kevin instantly realized it. The demon dog was deliberately slowed down during its first attack to confuse itself. It seems that I underestimated Lord Yu reading www.yuukeangshu.net at the same time. Bai Ling grabbed the opponent's hesitant gear and pressed it against Kevin's calf, biting it hard. Oh no, I can't escape. It's too fast. In the midst of floating thoughts, a blue aura enveloped the calf. Click. Bai Ling decisively bit down, but made a muffled sound. I saw a blue air film like rubber, blocking the puncture of the fangs. Bai Ling's eyes flickered, as if she had received some kind of command. Boom. 2 columnar flames spewed out from the tip of his teeth, and a powerful wave of air exploded at Kevin's calf. Flames rolled and boiled, enveloping Kevin's lower body. Kevin instinctively mobilized more fighting spirit to protect his entire body in a timely manner. The blue air film covers the whole body, like a burning blue flame. However, this kind of consumption is difficult to sustain even if he is a mid-level knight. Damn it. It's amazing that it can still cast fireball magic. What kind of monster is it? It's so full of fighting spirit after awakening for less than an hour. It's unbelievable. Kevin felt that his values had been repeatedly crushed today. First is the awakening of adult magic dogs, followed by the continuous fireball technique of junior magic dogs. ZZZZ. Under the scorching flames, the blue gas film began to rapidly melt, and Kevin's fighting spirit was rapidly draining from his body. 10 seconds. We can only hold on for another 10 seconds. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Kevin saw the tragic scene of the comrade who was bitten to death by the magic dog. Torn wounds, jumping arcs, and the fierce glare of the magic dog's erect pupils. Damn beast. Kevin was completely angry. He couldn't care too much anymore, raised his long sword high and fiercely stabbed Bai Ling's neck. Chapter 9. Successful Establishment of Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the strength of a junior Warcraft, if bitten so hard, the calf would definitely not be able to be saved. In that case, I will become a cripple, no, a one-armed cripple. This scene is unimaginable. Since losing my left hand, I have lost my glory, and Naya has also run away with her daughter. I have transformed from an enviable intermediate knight to a joke that even my own wife and children cannot protect. At least I can still support myself and work as a bodyguard leader in this remote town to earn some income. However, without calves, it would be impossible to fulfill Count Morgan's commission and receive that high commission. What awaits oneself is likely to be wandering on the streets, curled up like those dirty beggars, waiting for alms. In an instant, Kevin thought a lot. Kevin gritted his teeth tightly, clenched his long sword, and glared angrily at the demon dog's neck, saying, "Die." However, he overlooked one thing. After the demon dog awakens, the strength of its surface fur will greatly increase, and ordinary swords cannot harm the demon dog by half. Click. The moment the long knife touched the fur of the demon dog, it shattered into several pieces and scattered on the ground with a clatter, just like Kevin's pride. Bai Ling remained steadfast, his teeth continuously spewing hot flames, gradually melting the blue air film. Click. The air film ruptures, and sharp teeth penetrate the nail lock. Fangs are no longer obstructed, like a hot knife cutting butter, cutting through leather armor, piercing hemp clothes, and drilling into skin and flesh. Stop it. Ryan's deep voice echoed on the school field. The action of the demon dog suddenly froze, like a machine with no electricity, stopping its attack. It slowly released its blazing mouth and cautiously retreated. Cavalier Kevin was in a cold sweat of fear, and he collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. In that very moment, he seemed to have returned to the dark time when his arm was severed. Fear, helplessness, helplessness. Beside the schoolyard, several guards stared blankly at this scene, frozen in place. They couldn't believe that the Grand Knight would lose to a small demon dog. You should know, on the way to Mushroom Town, the Knight Commander killed several junior monsters with one sword and even repelled a group of demon wolves. The 7 gods are above. That lowly demon dog actually defeated the Lord Knight. Tell me, this is not true. Didn't you see the 2 red ears of the demon dog? It's already awakened, not the puppy just now. What terrifying combat power. Even the Knight Leader is not a match. Don't be foolish. How could a newly awakened demon dog defeat the Grand Knight? The bald guard snorted coldly. The guards turned their heads and looked at the bald head. He is the leader of the escort team, second only to Cavalier Kevin in status. What's going on? I'm a bit confused. That's right, Captain, don't play tricks, urged the skinny guard beside him. Bald and Cold snorted, revealing a mouthful of rotten teeth. The truly powerful one is Lord, this is his contracted spirit beast. Do you understand? Several guards exchanged glances with each other, as if they understood something. What you mean is that the Lord just controlled the enchanted dog to defeat the Lord Knight. With a slight smile, Bald lowered his voice and said, "Listen, from now on, keep your mouth on the door for me. If you chew on the Lord's tongue again, it may." Bald made a motion to wipe his neck, causing several guards to shrink their necks in fear. The guards who reacted nodded in agreement. They are not stupid, the current Vase Knights already have contract beasts, and their strength is unmatched. From now on, he will be the king of Mushroom Town. If he dares to slander the Lord, he will be hanged. Seeing Captain Bald say this, Sam beside him couldn't help but shiver. On weekdays, he complains the most and curses the most harshly. In the past, the knight always turned a blind eye to such slander, focused on drinking, and worried that everything would change now. Baldy looked at Sam and said, "Especially you, this guy. If you chew your tongue again in the future, I won't let you go first." Sam swallowed his saliva and his voice trembled slightly. "I was wrong, I dare not slander Lord again in the future." The servants on the side, hearing the guard say this, also understood the powerful relationship and hung their heads without saying a word. Only Melissa looked indifferent, as she had never spoken ill of the Lord. She just wants to climb onto the Lord's bed early and give birth to a little Lord for her. Butler Carl, with his ears perked up, eavesdropping on the conversation of the guards. He has long been displeased with the guards' usual disrespect towards the Lord. However, due to the strength of the Lord, even advising the Lord is of no use. After all, he knows better than anyone what these people are. If this group of people were offended, they might be able to kill and seize treasures, escape into the boundless sea on a small boat, and flee to neighboring countries. But now it's different. With the contracted beast White Spirit, the Lord truly deserves it, and no one dares to make mistakes again. Thinking of this, Carl couldn't help but lift his lips slightly. He turned his head to look at Cavalier Kevin, who was lying paralyzed on the ground, with a meaningful glint in his eyes. It wasn't until then that Kevin realized something. Since I broke my arm, the hero in the eyes of everyone has become a useless thing, and this gap has made me feel depressed for a while. However, in recent times, he has gradually regained the feeling he used to be familiar with. UU reading www.uukangshu.net is powerful and respected. Unconsciously, I have become infatuated with this feeling a bit ethereal, but forgetting that it was the Lord who gave me all of this. Without a Lord, I can only curl up in a corner and lick my scars to make ends meet. He thought of his recent disrespect towards the Lord and the disregard of his subordinates when slandering him. These thoughts were swirling in Kevin's mind, making him feel ashamed. Kevin slowly stood up and walked towards Ryan's position, with firm steps and bright eyes. He knelt down on one knee with a thud, covered his chest with his right hand, and slowly lowered his proud head. "Lord Xie, please be merciful." Ryan sat in the big chair, took a sip of the red wine Carl had just handed him, and looked down at Kevin. "How did my contract Warcraft perform?" "I retract what I said before, this is the most promising Warcraft I have ever seen." Kevin spoke respectfully. Ryan nodded in satisfaction. From beginning to end, Ryan just wanted to dampen the knight's spirit and make him understand who the owner of Mushroom Town was. If the force is too strong, it may make the knight lose his dignity in front of his subordinates. It will be difficult to control these temporary guard teams composed of unemployed wanderers, bounty hunters, and military ruffians in the future. In fact, he asked Carl about the composition of the guard team during dinner last night. I also understand that only force can deter these people. When it comes to hiring people now, we can't kill anyone who doesn't listen. Ryan looked at the knight who was kneeling in front of him and slowly spoke, "Get up, come and take a look at the knight's sword that Smith just sent." At this moment, the blacksmith standing on the side respectfully presented a wooden box. Chapter 10. Reward Distribution. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ryan threw away the wooden box and looked at the knight's sword in his hand. The hilt was adorned with a ruby, shining brightly. Ryan remembered it was the gem on Kevin's wedding ring. The rosy light flowed on the dazzling sword body, reflecting a unique water ripple, but it clearly deepened a lot, which was a mark of repeated trials and tribulations. The blade shimmered with a cold light, as if condensed into a stream of light. Ryan even suspected that it could cut through time and space. Good sword. Ryan looked at Cavalier Kevin with scattered hair and said, "Cavalier Kevin, please keep your sword safe." After finishing speaking, he handed out his long sword. Kevin respectfully took it, his gaze wandering on the blade, flashing. He placed his long sword horizontally on his knee, his trembling fingertips sliding on the blade covered in dark ripples, as if touching his daughter's cheek. A crystal-clear tear fell on the blade, reflecting Kevin's difficult self-reflection. Kevin stood up, his long sword deftly spinning in his right hand, the reflected glow piercing everyone's eyes. He walked to the grass man next to the schoolyard. "That is the target for practicing swordsmanship today." Kevin gently swung his long sword, and the grass figure split in half in an instant. The cut surface was neat and smooth, like a calm lake. The guards exchanged glances in astonishment. On weekdays, they also practice chopping grass figures, but the cuts made by steel knives are messy and rough, like messy stubble. In this era, the forging process of iron is not mature and there are many impurities, so the steel is relatively brittle. Ordinary swords have thicker blades, and they have never seen such a light and sharp long sword before. What a sharp long sword! Kevin spoke excitedly, as the reflected glow of the sword split his cheeks in half, like a blood-red wound. Smith chuckled and said, "Old buddy, I'm really jealous of you. After forging it, I realized that this refined steel is much better than UR steel." "Oh, why do you say that?" Kevin asked curiously. "My master once forged a giant axe with UR steel, and I found through comparison that this refined steel has less slag and better elasticity, making it the perfect material for crafting swords." Smith suddenly sighed and said regretfully, "I don't know when I'll see such good material again." Kevin felt happy after listening to it. He selfishly thought that if possible, this kind of material would be best not to appear again. "Never mind, I have to go back now. I'm getting older, I can't stay up late anymore." Smith yawned and turned around. After saying goodbye to the Lord, the blacksmith rode back in a cart. Ding! Task completed, rewarded with 0.5 agility points, clues for new iron ore are being distributed. The prompt sound on the panel pulled Ryan's thoughts back. Reward distribution in progress. What does this mean? He called out the panel. Ryan Campbell occupation. Apprentice Knight physical strength. 2.0 defense. 2.0 agility. 2.0 Dookie. 25/300, in turn, skill. Warcraft transformation contract. Warcraft. Iron-eating worms, magic dogs reward progress. Reward distribution in progress. Ryan looked at the flashing text on the panel and frowned. The agility value has been refreshed to 2.0, but the information for the new iron ore has not been received yet. Why not display the information directly? What's going on? Can you say my panel crashed? Time passed by minute by second, and even after enjoying breakfast. Grilled 7 Guild eel. The panel still didn't refresh its information. Sir, are you not satisfied with today's grilled 7 Guild eel? Carl asked cautiously. It's delicious, what's wrong? Ryan replied casually. Butler Carl touched his chin with a thoughtful expression. The bread was freshly baked by Susan in the morning, and the lampreys were also fresh. I have tasted the peas, and they have plenty of salt. Today's breakfast was quite perfect. I have also prepared Bai Ling's breakfast, and the little one ate very well. But why does the master still have a heavy heart? What's your expression, sir? Carl decided to ask directly. Ryan suddenly froze for a second, smiled, and said perfunctorily, the territory is poor and backward. I'm thinking of a way to make everyone have delicious grilled meat in the morning. You are truly a kind lord, Carl bowed and bowed. Mr. Carl. At this moment, a servant hurried over, his face turning pale and his expression panicked. Jim, the master is having dinner. How do I teach you on weekdays? Carl spoke sternly. Faced with harsh Carl, Jim looked awkward and stuttered. Carl often warns his servants not to disturb the master's dining at any time. It's okay, Carl. Ryan waved his hand and looked at the servant Jim kindly. I believe there must be something urgent. Master. Jim bowed and glanced at butler Carl, hesitating to speak. Carl, go deal with it. Ryan continued to bury his head in his meal. Master, I'll take the liberty of going out first and see what exactly happened. Carl leaned over and said. The two hurriedly left the restaurant. What? Carl shouted out loud, his eyes wide open. Are you sure? Yes, Mr. Carl. Jim looked towards the living room. He's waiting in the living room. Carl's face darkened, as if covered by a cloud of lead. About 5 minutes later, Carl returned to Ryan's side and pondered his words and phrases, saying, Sir, there has been a small scale collapse in the mining area, and 2 serfs are trapped in the mine. Their lives and deaths are unknown. The serf who reported the news is waiting in the living room. Reading www.uukangshu.net. The mine collapsed. Ryan's brow twitched. At present, the income of the entire mushroom town is completely dependent on iron ore. Once the mine collapses, it will inevitably affect the income of the territory. Ryan pulled off the tablecloth from his chest and walked quickly out of the restaurant. At this moment, a skinny middle-aged man was anxiously waiting in the living room. Middle-aged people's faces are covered in stains, their skin tone is unclear, and their greasy gray robe is covered in patches. His eyes were raised, staring blankly at a hanging painting on the wall, which was an oil painting depicting the city of Devon, with bright and vibrant colors. Levi's, haven't you seen the Lord yet? Carl shouted loudly. Levi's muscles suddenly tightened and he knelt down with a thud. Lord Carlos asked me to come and deliver a message, saying that the mine has collapsed and it will take a few days for the ore to be shipped out. Carlos, the head of the mushroom mine and the confidant of Count Morgan. This morning, I just pushed the ore out of the mine and it collapsed with a loud bang, which scared me to death. I don't know if it's alive or dead, but Red Nose and Big Stupid are still in the mine. Levi's words were incoherent. What collapsed? Speak clearly. Carl's face remained stern and his tone was serious. Mining cave, it's a mining cave. Red Nose and Silly Big Guy are still in the cave. Carl raised his hand, gesturing for him to shut up. Carl, give Levi a glass of hot milk. Ryan glanced at Carl. Tell Captain Kevin to come with me to the mine. Ryan's footsteps were hurried, but suddenly he stopped, as if he had thought of something. Bai Ling, come here. He snapped his fingers. In an instant, the snow-white demon dog rushed over like lightning, flipping over tables, chairs, porcelain, ornaments, and the clanging sound echoed through the castle along the way.